We are here with Ben Turner today. Ben is running for sheriff of Troup County. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ben?
Yes, ma'am. I was born and raised here in LaGrange. I graduated from LaGrange High School, and then I went to Auburn University. I obtained a bachelor's degree in history with a minor in sociology while I was there. Then I went to work for the Georgia State Patrol. I spent 3 years as a state trooper, and I was posted out of Post 24 Noonan. So I covered Heard, Coweta, and Fayette counties. After 3 years, I left to go into the ministry. There were a lot of things that were going on at that time. I was newly married and just a lot of life changes. So we stepped away to go into the ministry, and I've been in the ministry for almost 10 years now. And last year, I went back into law enforcement in a part-time capacity. My 2-year-old, when she was 8 weeks old, she was life-flighted, and we picked up some medical bills, and so I needed some financial help, and so we went back in part-time at LaGrange Police Department, and just started seeing things that were going on, and we knew we needed to try and make a change. So that's why we've wound up here.
Got, well, what is one occurrence in your life that really stands out that has pushed you to want to run for sheriff?
Ooh, one occurrence.
Or it can be a combination. It doesn't have to just be one.
Yeah, I think growing up, my dad was a sheriff when I was growing up, so I got to watch how he did things, and, I saw the opportunities he had to help people and to make a difference in our community. And then serving in law enforcement as both a state trooper and as a city police officer, I've just seen the need for there to be a progressive change, not in the way we think of like progressive in politics, but a forward-moving change in our law enforcement community. And I think for me, it was when I sat down with my wife and we started talking about, okay, what does it look like to raise our children in this community? What kind of community do I want to raise my children in? And so really it came down to, you can either be a part of the solution or you can be a part of the problem, and we decided to take steps to be a part of the solution.
With that, and having children in the community, and we have so many families that are sometimes concerned about crime in our county and in the community. What strategies do you have to reduce crime?
I think you have to be a community-focused police agency. That means you have to rely on the citizens, because when you have a crime, you're going to be looking for eyewitnesses. You're going to be looking for people who can point you in the right direction. You're going to need to build a trust relationship between the law enforcement agencies and the citizens of the community, because let's face it, almost never does a crime occur right in front of an officer. And if it does, it's not a very serious crime. So we need people that are willing to come forward and say, hey, I saw this at this time. And oftentimes, it's the smallest things that matter. I heard a car speeding at 11:30 when I was walking my dog, and that when you hear little things that piece together, it helps law enforcement solve crime. And law enforcement can't do their job without the aid and the help and the benefit of the citizens. And so if you're really going to reduce crime, you're going to have to build a good relationship with the community and with the citizens. And one of the things I've noticed is across all demographics and all communities and all income levels, you have certain people that are just inclined to commit crimes, but the other people of those communities don't appreciate those that are committing crime. They really want them to be locked up and to face punishment. And so you have to get in there and really, I hate to use a ministry phrase, but you kind of got to do life with people. And the more you're in the community with the people, the more you build relationships with them, the more that they see you're not there because you're trying to oppress anybody or beat anybody up, but you're really there because you want to make it a better place for people to live. So to me, the number one step and the number one priority would be building relationships in the community and making sure that there's a trust there between the citizens and the law enforcement officers that allow us to work together to help reduce crime.
Our jail has been at capacity.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you address this?
Well, that's one of those things that everybody seems to be facing. I did look at a sheriff's office not in Troup County, in Georgia, that opened their jail doors to mental health initiatives, recovery initiatives, as well as job training skills in certain cases. And Now, it took a while. I think it was about 15 years, but over that 15-year span, they saw their number of repeat offenders reduced from 7,000 down to 4,000. So that's a 3,000 person reduction in people that are coming through the doors again and again. Their jail capacity is now at 485 people, or their jail population. They're not even near their capacity. So we have to recognize that people that need to go to jail need to go to jail. But there's also people that are struggling with just life. I mean, they may have a mental health issue. We know that through the National Alliance on Mental Illness that there's a 1 in 5 chance that someone as an adult will experience mental illness. There's a 1 in 20% chance it's going to be a serious mental illness. We also know that when people are suffering from a psychosis or a mental break, or they're in crisis, that's going to cause them to have run-ins with law enforcement. So are we stacking charges on those people, or are we just using law enforcement as an avenue to help get them to the help that they need? I think that's one of the things that needs to be looked at. I think there's some state programs that we can look into and run as well that would help with coming in and helping us to evaluate. We also need to look at other ways that we can make sure the crimes we're enforcing are crimes that really need to be enforced, and that we're locking people up that need to be in jail. They're a danger to our community, but there's some people that are just making bad decisions, and we can find ways to work with the court system, to work with mental health initiatives, and to work with community programs that could help reduce the number of people that are in the jail.
What is your opinion on cannabis? With so I've had lots of people say that they smell marijuana in our community frequently now. So what is the law around it, and what is your position on it?
So the law is that it's illegal to have marijuana. So there's a difference between hemp and marijuana, and then there's a difference when it comes to CBD oils and things like that. There's different derivatives, and what you're really getting down to is what is the THC quantity, and what is the potency of that chemical that's in the product that's being smoked or consumed. You hear a lot of people say, well, it's green and it grows on the earth, and so therefore it's God-given and we should use it. I would say that the marijuana that we're running into on the streets with criminals and being used by gangs and stuff, that's going to be not what was growing in the ground. That's highly engineered product through different grow operations and such. So it's a different thing, but I also see that marijuana has a lot of medicinal values. There's a whole lot of benefits to it. There's a lot of great studies that are coming out. I think we're kind of right there in that transition phase as a country of, okay, have we made this the big bad wolf, and it's not really the big bad wolf? And I'm open to looking at those studies and looking at the stances of, okay, what can it do to improve people's quality of life? What can it do to improve people's health benefits? I don't think that just because the law has said that it's illegal for however many years now, that it has to stay that way, but also know that it's not the position of the sheriff to determine if something is legal or illegal. That's in our state lawmakers. So personally, I'm open to all avenues when it comes to that, but also know that the office of the sheriff and the law enforcement is to enforce the laws that are given by the state General Assembly, as we call it in Georgia. And until that is changed, there's not much we can do other than enforce the law. But at the same time, there are things that are going on in our community that I think are progressive steps in the right direction towards maybe reducing some of the strength of those penalties. I know as a city police officer, we can now write a municipal court just a citation for it and release people and seize it. I think it gives a $100 fine. I don't know that marijuana is still something that you need to be jailed for and sitting and waiting for a first appearance court date. But there are other ways to enforce the law. Just because you're speeding doesn't mean you have to get a ticket. So just like if you have marijuana, doesn't mean you have to go face 10 years in prison. Now, it depends on the quantity and if you're trafficking or distribution. All those things come into a factor there too. But I just believe that as a country, we're starting to shift and make that change. And I think we need to be open to all avenues there.
Okay. What about fentanyl? There have been multiple fentanyl deaths in our community, and what steps would you take to make it more known and more of a community service to make sure our youth and the community knows the risk of this?
Yeah, I think you really got to educate people. We had I've run several calls as an officer where you have someone overdosing and you know, you use Narcan to help bring them back, which is truly a miracle drug. And in the questioning afterwards, it was, okay, did you take what you normally take? Did you get it from your normal dealer? And they go, yeah, it's my normal dealer and it's what I normally take. So what we're looking at is not just a isolated issue. This comes bigger than Troup County. I mean, if you look at our southern border and the amount of fentanyl that's coming across there, you look across our nation at fentanyl deaths continuing to rise across the country, we know that we need to do a better job of educating people, okay? Let's make sure you understand the risks that are involved. Let's look at what is normal and what is not normal in a response. If you're going to choose to live a life where you flirt with taking illicit drugs or you take prescription drugs that aren't yours, then you probably need to have Narcan nearby. You probably need to have someone that's prepared to intervene because that's a risk you're running. What scares me most is when children are getting involved. What about when young children stumble across something? They don't understand that a small pill that looks like it's a piece of candy to them could actually kill them. And fentanyl is so potent that it doesn't take much to cause an overdose. So I think that we have to educate, but also we have to really ramp up our enforcement efforts. We have to start going after dealers and going after them in such an aggressive way that they legitimately fear doing business in Troup County, that they know if they bring that into Troup County and they try to sell that here, that we're going to come after them. We're going to pursue them to the fullest extent of the law, and that this is not the area that they need to be trying to do that in. It has to be a zero tolerance policy. And so there are too many lives that have been shattered by it already. And it definitely, recently we went on a trip. My daughter bent down and picked something up off the ground, and I had to step in quickly. Hey, whoa, put that down, put that down. I'm wiping her hands with a wipe, and she's like, Daddy, I don't understand. And I'm like, we don't ever pick anything up off the ground because we don't know what it has on it. And I tried to just use it as germs.
I haven't even thought about that with kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's so many instances of people picking up money. We see it with officers searching vehicles and stuff, and suddenly they begin to have a reaction to it. So I think we increase the education on how dangerous this stuff is. We increase the enforcement, and we go at it with full-on intent that we are not going to allow that here in our community. And then we also open up avenues for resources like Narcan. It's not a very expensive product. Let's make sure that we can train people and get it in people's hands for the event that they know someone that it happens to, or maybe their child bends over and picks something up at Walmart and it's something that someone else dropped and they start to have a reaction or an overdose. Have that nearby and ready. I think that also kind of partners with the education aspect, but something very important we need to be looking at.
Okay, we're gonna do one more question.
Okay.
Tell us why you feel that your experience, how you're going to use that in a leadership position as the sheriff, and work across to bring unity and collaboration in working well across all the departments.
Yes, absolutely. So my background is unique, and a lot of people they're trying to give me a hard time because I only have like 3 years in actual law enforcement, but I have a lot of years in leadership experience. I've been in leadership roles since I was 18 years old, working for the Auburn University Athletic Department. One of the things I've learned is you never have all the answers, and you can never do it by yourself. You constantly have to lean on other people and it's better for working as a team. I've worked with Chief Fiveash as a state trooper. He was one of my lieutenants, and I've worked for him as a chief. One of the things I told him when I was talking about running is, look, I'm not an ego guy. I don't care who gets the win, as long as our citizens get the win. Our citizens don't win anything, or they're not benefiting when we're in competition with other agencies. We're all working for the same goal there. And that means that not just law enforcement agencies, but also our hospital and our AMR and fire departments and such. So having been a pastor and worked mostly with volunteers and a very limited budget, I've understood and learned that you have to depend on other people. You have to know when your limitations are there and lean in on other people. You also have to make sure that you're making the most out of your resources. We can't be frivolous with our taxpayer money, and we can't be arrogant in how we go about our business. We got to really cross those lines and work with other people, and I look forward to doing that. So I think that my background, my experience, it's also unique because I've spent time as a pastor, which doesn't mean I'm going to be preaching in the sheriff's office, but what it means is I've walked with families of all kinds of different backgrounds, lifestyles, income levels, demographics through their hard times. I've listened to them. I've heard the struggles they've had. I've seen firsthand the difficulties they're going through. And I think that that background makes me unique in that I understand where the regular citizen is coming from, but also understand where the officer is coming from because I've done both. And so I think my background is special because I'm going to bring a robust round of experience into the program, and we're going to really turn this thing around and get going in the direction our community needs.
Okay. Can you quickly tell the viewers why they should vote for you?
Absolutely. So our community's growing. We're seeing all kinds of apartments being built. There's community growth. We are seeing all kinds of different people move into our community. We're seeing people flee Atlanta and come down. And as our community's growing, our law enforcement agency hasn't been. Our sheriff's office is still running the same staffing they were in 2011 when I was a state trooper, and that is 4 deputies and a supervisor covering the entire county. As your sheriff, I'm going to get the deputies off the interstate. At times, that's been as many as 3 or 4 deputies, and I think the last time I checked, it's 2 deputies right now. But we're going to get them off the interstates. We're going to put them in our communities, patrolling your neighborhoods, your subdivisions. We're going to resource and fund and train our drug unit to be aggressive against the drugs that are out there. We're going to ramp up that effort, and we're going to make sure that we can get those drugs off the street. And we're going to look at jail reformation. We're going to look at what can we do to help these citizens that have made bad decisions to get back on their feet, to become a productive member of society. And we're going to make sure that those that have committed crimes that need punishing, that they're punished, and they go to jail where they need to go or to prison where they need to go. I think my background makes me unique in that I'm going to be a sheriff for the people. I have a servant's heart. I've spent my whole life in service, and I look forward to serving you as a citizen. And I hope you would join me in that process as we look forward to move this agency to where it needs to be.